Hey, what is going on, guys? Today I want to talk to you about the Cinema 30 from Marantz. I've had it in my theater for a while now, doing some demos, doing some tests, going through my normal Kaleidescape script. In my previous video, I shared with you I wanted to see, could the Cinema 30 power an entire 7.2.4 Dolby Atmos system? And honestly, it did very well. The reason it did very well, though, is because my speakers are very efficient. My front three speakers, JTR Noesis 212 HTRs, have a sensitivity of 101 dB with 1 watt. So I'm getting 101 decibels in volume with just 1 watt, and then the additional wattage just allows me to go even higher. So it did overall, did very well. I was able to watch movies at reference volume. The Cinema 30 never shut off. It didn't really sound strained. I didn't get a sense that it was running out of gas. It's got a pretty beefy power supply. But again, we are powering 11 speakers. So if you have speakers that have a lower sensitivity, maybe in the 90 dB or lower range, if you've got 89 dB sensitive speakers, the Marantz Cinema 30 might struggle with that a bit, especially at reference volume. If you're not going to be driving it hard and you're only going to be, let's say, watching movies at 85 dB, 75 dB, 10 or 20 dB below reference, you're probably going to be more than fine for most speakers. So I really enjoyed the Cinema 30 by itself, but I wanted to see what would happen if we offload all of the internal amplification over to some external amplification. And so I've had the OSD audio amplifiers in my home. I haven't had them set up. I did an unboxing a while back. I know I'm way late on this video, but I wanted to see how well they would perform and how well they would drive my entire system. And so I installed the OSD HTD 6150, which is a 6-channel amplifier. So I bridged each pair of channels. So channels 1 and 2 I bridged, so you combine those channels to give it more output. So I did that for channels 1 and 2 for the left, channels 3 and 4 for my center, and channels 5 and 6 for my right speaker. And so the LCR is getting the most power that I can get from these amplifiers. Then I used their HTD 8150. That's an 8-channel amplifier to power my surrounds as well as my 4 height speakers. And, of course, I set this up, get it calibrated again, level match, do all that fun stuff. And to me, the sound definitely had improved. I even went into the Marantz. I turned off the internal amplification. In the settings of the Marantz, you can set it to what we call preamp mode. So if you're offloading some or all of the amplification, you can turn off the internal amplification in the Marantz, and it's supposed to clean up the sound. Truthfully, I didn't really hear any difference when I switched it over to preamp only, but I did turn off those internal amplifiers during the end of my testing, and again, I didn't really hear any difference. So I'm offloading all 11 speakers, all 11 channels to the OSD. The great thing about these amplifiers, several things. Number one, they're inexpensive. They're very, very affordable, and so you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on external amplification if you want, or if you feel that you need more power to your system. So the other thing I like is they're really low profile. So my Monolith 11X amplifier is huge. I mean, it's really tall, really wide, so it takes up the whole space in my cabinet, versus these, I was able to stack 2 of them on top of each other, and they took up the same amount of space. In a way, it makes sense because I've got 11 channels in one chassis, or I've got 11 channels in 2 chassis, and they take up about the same space, but it gives you more flexibility because these amplifiers are slimmer, they're shorter. The other thing, they're way lighter, tremendously light. So Class D amplifiers, used to back in the day, Class D was junk. You didn't want Class D, but probably over the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years, 7 years, manufacturers of amplifiers and even AVRs have been moving and shifting towards Class D amplification, and there's definitely some benefits. Now, I don't know, in a blind test, would you be able to hear a difference between AB and, Class D? Probably not. But the biggest benefits I see from that, you get, it's much lighter. Like, that thing is a stinking beast. I love my Monolith 11X, but I hate having to remove it. It's 100 pounds. It's close to 100 pounds. I think like 98 pounds or something. So it's a beast of an amplifier to drag across my floor. And now that I'm almost 50, it's even getting more difficult to move around. But Class D is super light, doesn't take up a lot of space. The other big benefit, you don't get any heat for the most part, very little heat. And that's why I'm able to stack those amplifiers, and I'm not worried about them overheating. Typically, you don't want to put something on top of an amplifier unless it's something like an AC Infinity fan to pull some of that heat away from that. But to me, the OSD, this is the thing that I've found over the past 7 years that I've seen and had some experience with OSD. They just offer a lot of value. If you don't need all the bells and whistles, if you don't want, a drop dead gorgeous chassis, I mean, there's money that's put in that. So it's pretty simple, simplistic. You just got a plain brushed aluminum front faceplate. You've got the blue LED lights, and on the back you can adjust the brightness of that. So if you want to turn that down quite a bit, you can definitely do that. But I just like the style of these. They're super affordable. They ran really well. And to me, again, I wasn't able to do an A/B blind test. So yes, could there be bias because my ears and my eyes know that I added an external amplifier? Sure. Was it night and day? No. A lot of times people think that, man, if I just had an amplifier, if I add an amplifier to my system, it's going to be night and day. Some people claim that, and they say, oh man, it opened up the sound stage, and I don't know if it did that, but to me it definitely did sound more clear, especially at the higher end, the higher volume. When I was pushing reference, it just seemed to be more enveloping to me. It seemed like the speakers had slightly more clarity to them because they're just getting individual. I mean, there's more power supply to go around versus an all-in-one chassis with just one big toroidal transformer that's distributing that to 11 channels. So if you're looking for something like super budget-friendly amplification, OSD is a great company. I've reviewed some from Outlaw Audio. They make great solid components as well, and amplifiers. Definitely look into those. You don't necessarily have to go to the much more high-end and more expensive amplification. There's some great products on the market. But to my ears, I preferred the sound providing external amplification to my system versus just having the Marantz Cinema 30 do all of the amplification. So that brings us to the question. Well, let me share this with you. So a couple little quirks I had with the Marantz. A couple of times when I was setting up Odyssey and running it through the app, sometimes I would try to export from my phone, the calibration file to the Marantz, and I got a couple of error messages. The only other issue I've had with the Cinema 30, I did have it freeze up during that time. I had to, just power it down, reboot it. It locked up during the, I don't remember if it was during the export when I was trying to export from my phone into the Marantz, and it locked up. But I've had that happen once. Might just been a fluke, but I haven't had it do that, before then or since then. But overall, solid unit. I love the style. Not so sure I like the white LED, the glow that comes from it. It can be distracting. I haven't had a chance to look in the menu to see if you can turn that off. I don't think you can. If you know if you can, let me know in the comments if that's in there. But if you can turn that off, that'd be great. If you can't, it can be distracting because sometimes you see that white glow. It looks cool, looks really gorgeous. And I love what Marantz is doing in the styling of this. It looks more high-end, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the sound. So that brings us to the big question. Like the Cinema 30, we've seen Marantz slowly increase their pricing, and really their desire is to separate them more from Denon. Before, it was like, why would I buy a Marantz or a Denon? You know, they seem like kind of about the same price for the most part, just barely more. So they're trying to differentiate that brand. And I get that. But at 40, I think the Marantz Cinema 30 right now is about $4,800. To me, when you're getting close to $5,000, that's more along the lines of separates territory, and you might want to consider that. And in my case, I felt that it was better off as separates by separating the power from the Marantz and offloading that to external amplification. So I'm thinking me personally, I would rather go towards a separates route if you're headed down, you know, that 5,000-ish kind of budget, if you've got that. And then, you know, when you're looking at what are the options out there, I mean, you can get the Monolith HTP1. I think it's currently about $4,000 if you can get it in stock. Most of the time it's not. The Anthem AVM 70 8K processor, $4,000. So to me, that's a hard choice for me. I would rather go separates when you're starting to get to that territory. But the reality is sometimes you don't have the available space, maybe in your rack or in your component, your cabinet, and so you may have to go with an all-in-one solution. And by all means, if that is what you've got to work with, the Cinema 30 is a phenomenal AVR. It's just got everything all in one chassis. It's nice that you have the ability to add Dirac Live, but to get the full Dirac package with bass control, now you're talking another $600 on top of the $4,800. And so again, we're getting way above $5,000 for this unit. And I personally think that, you know, you definitely at least need to consider separates going that route. And even in the Marantz territory, you could go with the, I think it's the AV20. I think it's a 13.2 channel processor. But again, you're just getting on up there in price. And so a lot of options. Of course, we all have to figure out what works best for us. I still, when I compare this to what I've been used to with the Anthem AVM 70 8K, man, I'm going with the Anthem. I just like what I like the sound quality that I get from that, the channel separation, the detail, the flexibility with arc. Now, arc took me a bit to kind of dial that in, especially in the bottom end, in the bass region. But once I got it where I liked it, man, I really enjoy that processor. And I had a couple issues initially, some glitches, some bugs, but they've got it all worked out with firmware. I haven't had a single problem with it for many months. But I just wanted to share with you my experience with the Marantz Cinema 30. It's a solid unit, really solid. I even love the remote. This was a nice touch. Definitely feels more premium than the cheap, you know, 100% plastic one that they used to have. So again, they're doing some things that make this unit feel more premium and justify the price increase. But to me, when you're getting to that $5,000-ish range, I'd at least consider separates. And there's some great affordable ways to do that, like with OSD, with Outlaw Audio, some great options out there. But I've enjoyed this, but I wanted to get this video out. Number one, because I'm way overdue on the OSD amplifiers. Of course, I'll link those down in the description below. I've been very pleased with the Cinema 30. It's just on the pricier side, being at $4,800, but it's a solid unit. Gives you a lot of flexibility with Odyssey, but also the ability to do Dirac Live if you want to pay the extra license. And then of course you could get the Odyssey Multi-EQ-X. That's their kind of Dirac version. It just opens up a lot more calibration for you. And so there's that option. So a lot of flexibility with that AVR, but definitely very impressed with the value that OSD provides. So if you're looking for an inexpensive amplifier Class D, definitely at least check them out, at least consider them. And then they've also got some Class AB, a lot heavier, bigger amplifiers. They have XLR inputs as well as RCA. I did an unboxing on those as well. I'll leave those linked down in the description as well. But now it's time to pull this out. I'm going to be getting the Trinnov Altitude 16 set up in my theater room. I'm going to hook it up to my Monolith 11X amplifier and see how well that does. I'm excited to get that in here. Probably won't be moving into my theater just because of the price. I mean, we're talking, what is it, $19,500. That's a steep price point. But I'm curious, how does that compare to my $4,000 Anthem AVM 70? You know, what does Trinnov offer? I just think it'd be fun to experience it firsthand so that I can know the difference and just have some firsthand experience with that. So of course I'll bring you along the ride for that. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. I've got awesome content, some more videos coming your way. So stay tuned to the channel. Hope you guys have an incredible week. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next video.